welcome to the future of the sales role. Okay, well, I think we'll crack on, and then probably people will just join in as we start through the first few little round of introductions. So hello and welcome to everyone. There's quite a big list of people who've signed up for this webinar, so I think probably lots of people are going to get it on the replay as well. I'd like to introduce the two guests that join me today, and thank you so much for your time. First of all, Lisa Herbert, who is from Infinity. Hi Lisa, do you want to say hello and what Infinity does for those that haven't heard of your amazing company?
Yes, Infinity is a 20-year-old managed service provider. We play very strongly in the Microsoft solution space around cloud solutions as well as dynamics across the enterprise.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. We're also joined by Rick Hayden, who is the owner of Learning Cog and one of our sales leadership experts. Rick, do you want to say hello a bit about Learning Cog?
Hi there, good afternoon everybody. As I said, my name is Rick. I own and manage Learning Cog, and we are a training consultancy really. We work with lots of different clients to be able to develop the people within their business with a big focus on sales and sales leadership and the changes that we make.
So Rick's one of the fabulous we work with at Sales Activator. Sales Activator are hosting this fantastic forum today. Lots of you on the call are Sales Activator customers. Some of you know me from other worlds, or Lisa or Rick from other worlds. So welcome everybody. If you're just joining us, pop your name in the chat and say hello and where you're calling in from. And we will move on. So this is what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. So we will finish on time, because I know how much I hate these webinars that just drag on all day when they promise they would only spend 30 minutes of your time. So I promise we will be done by 2. So we're going to discuss what the future holds for sales. So are we going to continue seeing direct sales as a prominent role as it is now? Or is customer excellence and inside sales and all that kind of like, is that going to take over instead? And in 5 years time, I think is kind of like the roadmap for this. You know, obviously COVID has accelerated everything massively, but what are we going to see in 5 years time? Is it really going to be very polarized? It's going to be interesting to see. So we've got 2 slightly different views on the call today, and I'm really interested to hear yours. So we're going to hear from Rick and Lisa on their views, and be ready to share yours in the chat box and we can have a conversation. Also, if you want to ask Lisa and Rick questions, you can put those in the chat box too, and I'll see if I can get them to answer them. Towards the end, we're going to provide a benchmark and a forecast that you can use within your business right now, so that you can start looking at how you're hiring and make some changes to what you need to do. With some of the interesting tips Lisa and Rick have got for you, I'll show you how you can use that to create some really useful benchmarks, certainly in how you hire and retain your people. We're also going to be offering 10 complimentary consulting sessions out at the end of this. So if you want to grab one of those so that you can have a check on where your sales force is at, what your plans are, what's happening in your industry, we can compare it to our best practice in-house and share with you where we think we would bet if we were betting people in terms of what's going to happen to your industry, but how you can downscale the risks anyway, regardless of what happens. And finally, at the end, we'll also be offering out the webinar replay, the call to action plan, and as I said, the free consultation for the first 10 who grab it. So if you've got any questions, shout now. If not, I will continue on. So Rick, do you want to give us your opinion first of all?
I'd love to give my opinion.
Where is this all going?
So thinking about the changes that we've been through over the last 12 to 18 months, and that change that was kind of already taking place before then as well, in the way that salespeople work and interact with their customers and clients. So the big thing to be able to recognise is, you know, the role of a salesperson has completely changed. Everybody's role in any business has changed over the last 12 months for definite. One of the big things to be able to think about as we move forward that salespeople take forward is really honing in on that idea of being a business partner. So no longer kind of thinking about the transactional way of sales taking place and going in to be able to achieve that sale and get what they want, but actually working in a business partnering model to be able to be there and be part of the growth of their customer's business. So really paying attention to the other aspects and the holistic approach of being able to look at that idea of, this is my customer and this is their business. How am I partnering with them so that not just my product or service is in there, but their business grows, and by doing so, my share of that product or service grows with them as they go. The big thing to be able to recognise in that as well is not just the role of the salesperson is changing, but customers have changed. Customers' mindsets have changed over the last 12 months. Their outlook to the way that they work with people has completely changed as well, in exactly the same way that that salesperson's changed. And with that comes a mix of the way that we work as well. So the traditional, you know, field-based salesperson out on the road, their role's changing. They're doing everything virtually at the moment, and virtual is here to stay. And how they build that business partnering model by being able to do that as well. But the role of indoor becomes blurred into that as well. So you know, is there a line that needs to be chalked out between those two roles, or actually is there one role that's enhanced and another role that does things differently as well? And right down to that, I'm a business partner and I'm here to support you growing your business. And that's the way we look at sales moving forward as well.
So Rick, you think that it's less about going out to the customer, or are they staying in the office? I mean, obviously I think that the difference between direct and inside sales is direct people are going out and finding sales, finding business, trying to win the sale in some way. So even if we have been stuck at home, we're still, you know, looking for business. Whereas inside sales are you know, typically waiting for the leads to come in. Customer excellence are dealing with them once they become clients, although we're seeing that shift a little bit more to before the sales process now. So with business partnering, do you think, you know, are these people in your mind, they've got a number, they've got to go out there and find the business, so they are still direct sales, or do you think they're more like customer excellence?
I definitely think customer excellence. I think it's about being able to build partnerships with businesses based around the products and services that you're offering, but going out and finding that new business, being able to nurture and grow that business as part of that as well. But I think one of the biggest things that's happened over the last 12 months is the difference of those two roles. It has much more of a meeting point together. So it can be done by somebody, you know, we're sat in an office and doing things. So rather than waiting for that business to come to them, we're going out and finding that business and working on that. And there's a greater role to play, but marketing are coming into that as well.
Yeah, for me, that's what I'm seeing, is that role between traditional business development and marketing, because of the, you know, stay-at-home nature of things, that is really starting to blur. Yeah. And the need for those people who are, you know, customer excellence and inside sales, who perhaps didn't need to be doing the whole professional presence and the selling side of it so much, there's a greater need for them to step up into that space now too.
Yeah, definitely. You've got a whole group of people that are kind of stepping up and bringing on the new skills and being able to do that. But then, you know, the changing role of what that direct sales out there is getting and working in that partnering model, and the internal partnering model that comes for that as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point as well. I think that's definitely growing.
Yeah, and you know, we think about those two roles that we're discussing about that internal partnership, but what does the internal partnerships look between the departments, that sales and marketing function, and are they one function? So that function is there to drive the customer forward and support the customer growth in that business partnering model.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks, Rick. We're going to come back to you in a minute, but we're now going to hear from Lisa. So Lisa, who has the most fab graphic. So jealous. Tell us about your opinion, Lisa, on this, your take.
Hi, Liz. Thanks for the opportunity to share my views. Based on experience over the last number of years, I didn't want to be absolutely specific about how many years. So direct sales, or perhaps in the industries that I work in, direct contact definitely still had a place in drumming up that all-important initial contact right up until just before the pandemic. We may have gravitated in certain fields to calling it networking or building contacts, but initially that jump in contact is direct selling. I might be selling myself or my 30-second elevator pitch. I'm still relying on that initial direct sale to get to that more complicated trusted relationship that'll allow me to then become a trusted advisor. However, we've seen our consumers becoming much more educated, and that's thanks to technology, having the information at their fingertips. They've become much more aware of the competitive landscape that I work in. So we've found that our consumers now want self-service. They do their homework and they educate themselves because this makes them feel more in control and way less likely to be snake oil sold. This has meant that my sales team has seen a pattern where our prospects come to us already armed with knowledge. And unless we can keep their attention, differentiate ourselves with our references, our specialist knowledge, and unless we can be seen to be the leader in our competitive landscape, we just become a price benchmark and the consumer inevitably moves on. So during the pandemic, our customers' behavior was so erratic that even our existing customers gave us pause for thought. As a sales leader, I had plenty of time to mull over what the client really wanted. What are they looking for? Why are they coming to us? Where have all the leads gone, basically? They may touch us in the beginning of their buying cycle now when they start their investigation. And this was and is predominantly for pricing, right? Benchmarking us, checking us out. What are the basics things we've got? Then during the pandemic, over the last couple of months, they just disappeared for months while they collated their own knowledge and did their due diligence. We found we were specifically successful in maintaining our relevance with these prospects by feeding them information, keeping them up to date with knowledge that would help them in their decision making without spamming them with irrelevant rubbish. So we took on the role of educator, of challenger, and particularly provided excellence in knowledge so they could use what we were talking about to make those decisions. We also had to train our sales team to think and cultivate an innovative mentality. If this was their only customer, what would that customer be needing to get them to consider the salesperson as an industry specialist? And this even goes to the most junior sales team that we took on right in the middle of the pandemic in September. We started training them in customer excellence to challenge the customer themselves and their own knowledge to what can I provide more than just what the internet's already got for us? Because typically all of our prospects were sitting in their armchairs at home, being able to Google for everything.
Absolutely.
So we found our sales cycle is longer, certainly during the pandemic. But what we're finding now is that the knowledge that we're imparting, not actually selling the solution, but selling the impact of not having a solution. For instance, like cybersecurity, what's the impact of that, of not having that in a business, predominantly looking at remote working, and staying away from scaremongering. We educate our clients on the steps they can take to get to a certain solution. So we position a process where they can take steps 1 to 5 all at once with this particular overall impact, or they can take the route of engaging us step by step based on the financial availability, because that has to be a big consideration. And then this is what they can expect. So this is the key to part that we found with partnering with a client and journeying through that sales cycle to build that longer term relationship.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Lisa. And did you find, we were talking earlier about this kind of the split in how many people are actually going out there finding those initial kind of leads to follow up and send information to versus the numbers of people in customer excellence? What's the split in the business around that?
We're 100% on customer excellence. We rely fully on marketing campaigns, pay-per-click search engine optimization. That's our marketing division who's completely in control of that. What we start looking for is we define our message. So who is our ideal customer? What's their profile? Where are they lurking? What are they looking for? How do we make ourselves industry specialists around what we offer so that we can pull them to us rather than push infinity onto them?
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you. There's also been a conversation going on in the chat as well, which is talking about these handover points, which is quite interesting. So James was saying that he likes the idea of having one central point of contact, so he's not constantly being passed around in a company, which, James, I'm guessing that was a point in favour of keeping direct sales.
Yeah, absolutely. But I certainly, from the clients that I work with and as a purchaser, what I really don't like, and I do see some people do it, is that you get great service from a salesperson who creates a great relationship with you, reflects the brand that you're buying or the product that you're buying. And then once you've actually signed on the line, you then get handed over to a delivery team who perhaps aren't as good as salespeople are great. We all know that. But it's the delivery team which has to live the brand that you've bought or the product that you've bought. And I think that's where things start to drop down. So coming back to Rick's point of that business partner, that partnering model, I think is absolutely critical. And where we see our success is where we keep that relationship right the way through the delivery chain.
Great. And Tom, do you want to expand on your point on that one?
Yeah, sure. From what I said previously, or what I've just said then, I think we need to stay close throughout the whole life cycle of the program and be that point of contact and check in, be that sort of the delivery, taking out the weeds if we need to, but just be that point that everything's going well and we haven't just passed it off and left, sort of thing. Yeah, certainly.
So are you in favour of the direct sales model? So somebody's still going out and finding those customers, or are you more with the kind of Lisa inside sales marketing and customer excellence that we're just so amazing they come to us and we nurture them and feed them all the right information? Where are you on that?
Probably much closer on Lisa's side. I've been on all sides.
Yeah.
Now we're at Cirrus, which has just been acquired by Accenture. So there's a lot of we've got so many great clients and they're all out there. So if we do a great job looking after them, we'll get enough where we're at. I think there's still a place for it. I wouldn't take it out totally, but I think, yeah, if you got a good name and you're out there and you do the customer excellence really, really well, then I think you're in a good place.
Excellent. Thanks, Tom. And Roger's just popped something into the chat there as well. Roger, if you want to chat live, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, just agreeing with the last couple of comments, really. You need this. The salesperson has that right perspective from a sales drive, but the delivery person heads up that delivery team who deliver on the promises made. And being close to the sales team, you can keep each other aligned, because then you're not selling something that you can't deliver and you're not delivering something that wasn't promised.
I agree.
You both got to keep the customer central, front and center.
Yeah, I agree. I think sales is critical. And do you think, in terms of the direct versus the sort of the inside sales that are sort of pulling the leads from marketing, social media, sort of feeding the internet machine with relevant information, where are you on that?
I think the indirect really helps because it brings that authenticity. You actually use the customer's language more.
Yeah.
You understand what's going on. Direct sales is appropriate, I think, for where you have a product that people can buy. But as soon as you get into the sort of tailored, bespoke end of delivery, you need that customer intimacy.
Yeah, agree. So you think it actually might be different for different industries? That's kind of the conclusion I was coming to as well. So here's a bunch of conclusions that I came to from just reading a little around on this, as well as chatting to our in-house experts and the people on the call. So the people who seem to go with the direct sales prevails. So some consultancy houses are very down this road and say, well, it's pretty much what we do in consultancy. The one process blends into the other. It's always worked this way, it will continue. There's the sort of challenger houses that say, you know, clients need to be taught something. We need to go out and tell them what they don't know because they don't know what they don't know. And that retail and entertainment we'll definitely go back to this model just because of the geography of how the whole thing works. But the message very much has been from, you know, all our panelists and from all of you as well, that we need to adapt, because the rise of the buyers' power and knowledge and information on this and their control over this has really moved this to a buyer journey, as we talk about sales activator, rather than the sales process being king. And if you want to hear some more about that, please give us a bell and chat to us. We'd love to talk about that. The people who are on the direct sales declines model seem to be thinking that inside sales is just cheaper to run and picks up clients who are ready to buy. That was one person's view. Customer excellence does the consultation, they say, without the sell part of it, which is, you know, sort of going down Lisa's line of thought there. And they're saying that, you know, you need to give buyers the option, adapt to whatever it is that they want, and that's the way to keep the business. And there was another interesting point from people I actually know who are saying that they're not sure they want to go back. So even though they were doing direct sales roles before, they want to change their roles. So this was another interesting idea, that direct sales might decline because the direct sellers themselves want to change the way that they're working. Although obviously we can still have business development from home. That's what most of us have been doing during the pandemic. So that was pretty interesting as a summary of what was out there. Anybody want to add anything in there?
Liz, hi. Yeah, I think from my point of view, direct sales will prevail, but around what Lisa was saying around feeding them information and knowledge, so that challenger model, you know, why haven't we thought of doing? And I think some of that has to come from maybe some of the more senior people in the business, because we've been there, we've got the scars, we've helped the companies, we've solved the problems, and we've kept an eye on the changing industry to see how technology can make a difference. And we just joined a new technology business partner to do new business, you know, so it might be a case of, actually, if I'd have looked at this 2 months ago, I thought, is my role defunct now, or should I have a 2-year exit plan, not a 5-year exit plan? But no, I absolutely see that my knowledge of the industry and how I can then translate that into what their businesses are trying to do is still essential in, if nothing else, supporting them in the decisions they might be making on the, you know, the social networking and their Googling of what should we do next. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, you know, if somebody wants to buy, you know, 200 laptops, they can do it online, they can do it on a web portal, they can do it with internal, they can do it with me if they want, but I'm an expensive resource to do that with. And arguably it would take longer probably than absolutely going on to Amazon, especially if they email me. I never get around to emails. So I think, you know, the argument from the consultancy side is quite strong, and as you're saying, Paul, you know, if what you're doing is effectively consultancy, and what Lisa's talking about, and then the argument becomes, you know, have you got a marketing department that is consulting and offering these new sort of challenger points of view, or is this something that your salespeople do? And then that's down to roles, and what Rick was saying, that, you know, actually the internal business partnering is really starting to change too. And the whole idea that this is becoming a lot more personal, that, you know, the partnering, we need to understand their entire business, not just the bit that we're selling our product or service into. And likewise, internally, we need to understand the whole partnership thing going on so that we can work with it with other departments. Just looking at the chat box here as well. Nice. So James talking about incentivizing sales teams, not just on completion, but on retention. That's a good point. And lifetime customer value from JD. Yeah, absolutely. So these driving loyalty services and, you know, keeping it going.
I was just going to say, the only other thing I was going to say on the direct, it probably follows on from Paul's point, is it does depend, I think, probably on the life stage of product and company as well. If you're a startup, you can't, you haven't necessarily at that stage got the resources or the history of, you know, of product or communication to be able to rely on the marketing and inside sales. So you've probably got a more direct approach, and that might be the same for a company with a new product. So therefore, I think there is still going to be a balance, but I absolutely agree with what everyone said in terms of the shift, and also being on the sort of sales side. I'd quite like not to do as much traveling as I did before as well, but I think that's more about changing the way that we sell and doing it more as we're doing it on here than changing my role and not driving around the country. I think there's a balance that we'll come to where I think that role will naturally change. I think whether it's for economic reasons or for people have just got used to that change now over 14 months, I think the role will naturally be more at home and online. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not direct.
True. And on that point of things changing, that's where, you know, we're suggesting we go in terms of best practice. So, you know, take a look at, if you haven't already, the current sales practices. You know, what are you doing? Are you still doing mass emails out to everybody, you know, or mass phone call campaigns? You know, the stats on that show the returns and really have dropped down to make it virtually not worth doing. Where are you with your social media presence? If you want somebody to have a look at that for you, please give us a bell. Try and find themes of what's working and what's not, as well as what's declining and what's working better. Strange things have happened over the last 18 to 24 months, and they seem to have accelerated the path that we were on, but different things are coming up. Obviously, talk to your clients as well about what they like and what they want more of. And then assess that. So look at, you know, these webinars are great, this kind of thing, social media, your personal networks, and talk to people who are in similar roles, similar industries. Are your trends shared? If they are, what are the people who are successful doing about those? So, you know, this is one of probably the best eras to be able to just copy and replicate really good tactics that are working well in similar industries. Then the next thing to do is to create a committed steering group internally of people who want to change this, including some commercial stakeholders, obviously. Plan what you're going to do, how you're going to measure success, so you can keep going. Because one thing that Lisa referred to this earlier, the sales cycles have got ridiculously long over the pandemic. Some of us had really long sales cycles anyway to start with, but also with this social media and getting the attention of the buyers and adding value to their journey, that's a long process. You know, unless you happen to have caught that 3% of the market that's ready to buy, then, you know, you're going to wait a few months before you start to see this really accelerate and get moving in your business. So you need something to keep you going. And then finally, act, make your plan, execute it. If you stand still, we guarantee your competitors will take ground for you. So innovate, try things, and mainly the point from this whole webinar has been move with your buyer's expectation, and that's what's going to allow you to thrive. So final, just note, book your complimentary session if you want one now. You can either stick it in the chat box or you can send me an email at liz.timoney@salesactivator.com. And exciting news, we've started a podcast. I already have interviewed people from Zoom and Lightwave and Mind Valley and other exciting companies. And it's launching in May, and it's called Inspiring Jobs in Sales. And my idea is for Sales Activator to lead the way in inspiring people around what exciting jobs are in sales and how it can take you anywhere. And I think, given the experience of the combined people on this call, that would prove the point nicely. So thank you so much for coming, and as promised, I finished at the top of the hour. Thanks so much for coming, and if you want to say anything else, please feel free.
Thank you, Liz.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you especially to my two guests, Lisa and Rick.
Yeah, really good session. Thank you very much indeed.